At a secret location, 6 strangers sit at one table to enjoy a 3-course meal. Given topics and questions to discuss, there is no space at this table to be politically correct. Who will choke on their food or who will swallow their words? This is Don't Talk With Your Mouth Full. Time for the final course and also the final topic.
And for dessert today is, we're gonna wait it for too long. Cake and custard.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Thank you. Right. Oh Lord, this is long. Heartbroken daughter of Croydon Gran, murdered by devil killer, asks why my beautiful mum. Hayley Mullings, 22, has paid a moving tribute to her beloved mother, who was brutally killed by the man she planned to marry. A murderer who blamed the devil for fatally stabbing his fiancée through the heart has been jailed for life, but the wounds he inflicted on the family of his victim are still being felt every day. Sabrina Mullings' heartbroken daughter has paid a moving tribute to her mother and said, "I have to live this pain." Should the death penalty be introduced for murderers and paedophiles in the UK? Thank you.
Ooh.
What a wonderful way to start dessert.
That's penalty.
Okay, so first, I guess, what's the other alternative? So, how should they be treated if there's no death penalty? So we at least know what our options are.
We can start with the baseline.
What happens at the moment?
The baseline.
They don't deserve to die. That's for sure. Because kids get tortured, like by pedophiles and stuff. Like, you can't do that. Like, and when they say like, oh, it's mental sickness or something like that, they're just gonna go to some places where all the sick people are. They're not sick.
Okay.
They should be treated like a criminals and much worse. Even criminals are better than them.
I see your
Are you
point.
saying they
because
should be killed?
Should be killed?
They
or-
shouldn't be killed.
They shouldn't be killed.
Yeah, but the same way they shouldn't be released.
Oh, so incarcerated
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the
So you
rest
feel
of
like
their life.
incarceration?
Yeah.
So you
They
believe
can't be
incarceration?
released because they're releasing them.
Okay.
Okay,
Like,
but then
I get
if
that.
we push that, you said you try to reform them, right? So should they be treated? Should they be treated as ill, or should they just be punished?
they should be punished, but
It's
in
just
the
a sickness,
place-
they say, apparently.
yeah.
They say it's a sickness.
So morally, if you think about it, there are some crimes that are really, really hard to forgive. And things like violent rape, even, you could add to this question. Of course, pedophilia,
Exactly.
and like willful murder with intent, and so on. But if you come down to it, there are certain people who want to even die. Like, there's so many cases of mass murderers who say things on death row, like, "Oh, I could have killed 10 people in the amount of time you took to kill me." That's not fun to hear, but it is a fact of life. Those people, perhaps there's an argument to be made to put them down. However, certain other people, you can argue that they're ill. Some
okay,
murderers
even if
are
they're
ill.
you would like to see someone walking around, like looking at your child, creeping, and one day you just won't see your kid anymore.
So my argument here is that if we do consider them ill, they should be treated and not released until they are fully treated, or as far as you can push a fully treated person.
Seriously.
Question is, can they be treated?
Can they be treated? That's the question. Can they be treated?
So again,
I think
those
they should be
psychologically, if you
killed,
say
yeah.
it,
So
you
those
pedophile,
people
like
that's your
castrated or whatever.
intent, isn't
He
it?
can tell
That's
you,
your
yeah, I'm
intention.
treated like You can.
Exactly.
There are
release-
ways
they can
to
release
there are
Yeah.
ways to abuse the system. I do agree with that. However, there's other ways that this is a human life. I'm not going to get into the soul or whatever. It's a human being. So, of course, you think he wants to be a bad person? You think every person who goes around killing and molesting people want to do it? That they enjoy
they
it
just
so
wake
much?
up in the morning and be like, this is what I want to do in the rest of my life.
It is a
Okay.
desire though. It goes down to them like desiring to kill, like
Yeah.
paedophiles
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
People are saying
Yeah.
nowadays, I don't agree with it, but they're saying that they're
They
doing it
enjoy
because
it.
it's something in their, like they're born with like a genetic defect that
That's one
causes
of the
them to
arguments.
be sexually attracted to children.
Nature and nurture. Could they be born with it? Was it nurtured into them? Did something happen to them as a child that could make them that?
But if something did happen to you as a child, then wouldn't you want
Yeah.
nothing
You
bad
would
to
like
happen
to
to another
defend
child?
them.
That's one way to look at it, but a lot of people, you don't understand how the mind works. Like, no one really understands how the mind works, so that could really
Copy-paste.
scar someone, like, I want revenge, and so on and so forth. Now, is that person really in the wrong? Or what if that person becomes attracted to children after that event, after that scarring event? Those are the kinds of people that I think deserve treatment. Again, the other people who talk about, I could kill 10 people in the time it takes to kill me. There was one person who talked about, oh, I wish humanity had a collective neck so I could choke the life out of it. Those kinds of people, treating them would first of all take years, and secondly, do you even want to treat someone that's so far gone that way? I'm talking about a vast majority that do, for example, crime of passion. You see someone cheating on you, or
Yeah.
you find out the kid isn't yours. Like, the right response isn't to shoot them or to kill
No,
them,
it's not.
but you can lose it. So
Yeah.
that person should be reformed, jailed,
Yeah.
treated, and then brought back.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because you want them to be
See-
incarcerated for life, right? So
But at the same time, how accurate, how sure are we that the details of the crime are what they've been told to be? For example, there's a lot of cases in America, particularly, where people have died or at the
Unnecessarily.
hands of capital punishment wrongfully.
Yeah.
We're talking about I believe they have like a adversarial kind of judiciary system where the lawyer himself, it's all down to him however the case goes. It's
Yeah.
nothing to do with anybody else as opposed to the lawyer. Therefore, if I've got a case and I just want to make sure that my quota stays the same, I'm going to make sure I'll do anything in my power to make sure that person...
Yeah. It's like with the O.J. Simpson case. like,
Exactly
how
what
they
O.J.
got him
Simpson
off.
case.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Absolutely ridiculous.
That's perfect. We all know, I
My
mean,
goodness.
the guy did it.
Yeah.
The guy did it. I mean, it's clear as day, he did it. OJ did it, but at the end of the
like
day,
one of
he
the
didn't
points
get
you
anything for
made.
it.
I like one of the points you made
How
about the
accurate
criminal
are we?
justice system and how it could possibly go wrong as well if you take the other end of the coin.
You have
Other
to
side of
take
the
into
coin.
account these
Yeah.
things.
But then I think we were talking about this earlier as well. We've kind of surpassed this. Not, I wouldn't say completely. I'm sure there's still developments left, but in the form of DNA testing and other videographic evidence that's more
Okay.
clearer rather than a blurry face and
Yeah.
so on. We have really reached a point where it's come to, for example, solving a murder mystery. You can't exactly see it take place. You see a footprint, you see a blood stain. Perhaps the person's like he's caught red-handed and so
Or
on.
with the glove.
Yeah. So my point is, you can never be 100% sure that the
Exactly.
person is guilty,
Exactly.
but you can be damn close.
You could be damn close, yeah.
Mhm.
But
So-
I mean, damn
can get it.
close or
Yeah.
99%
Yeah,
or 100%.
exactly.
If there's space for 1%
Yes.
inaccuracy,
Yes.
there's
But then
no such thing as
that's
that.
the argument that I think you two were posing earlier, which was that there are some people, like, should they be given the chance to come back out into society? What's worse, that you kill a couple of innocent people or you let most people out? That, I think I would side with her that way, that I would rather that they stay and get reformed or incarcerated
See,
for
I
life.
believe
The
so.
argument that people have for the death penalty mostly is it's always emotional. It's not emotional argument of like they killed this person, eye for an eye, they need to die. But the only argument that ever like touched me personally was the one of if we keep them incarcerated, that's taxpayers' money
Exactly.
being wasted.
Oh, yeah.
I
So
know it's a big argument, but it's a valid
it's a
one.
valid argument
Yeah.
of saying
Yeah.
should we keep this person alive who has taken someone else's life away? But at the
And
same
create the
time,
new punishment, worse than that, not death.
I want to
Because,
support both of these, actually.
because see, the
What
child
could be a
who was
worse
harmed,
punishment though? What could
Yeah.
be?
I
what's
got
worse?
no, but like the death, like you give him an option to get away from it.
Yeah.
Like, and the child gonna wake up in the morning, screaming,
Yeah.
crying. It's
remembering
awful.
that emotional moment, yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
mean-
it's what you said earlier about the taxpayers' money being taken. It takes around 20 million, some say till about 100 million, to put someone down. The court fees, the lethal injections, the entire process. It's not cheap for the state to do something like this. So they need to be really sure when they're
So
taking
even
that
that
step.
isn't cheap.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And also,
this is UK, I forgot.
we're talking about so many
This
unconscious
particular question
biases,
is
Bills
UK.
for
though.
major
as well.
unconscious biases. We're going to have a judge here that's going to say, I don't really know the case right now, but you know what? Based on these facts,
Yeah.
you're a little kid from this particular area and you shot the guy because he's been, I don't know, beating up your mum. Okay, cool. What's going to happen to you? You're going to get a death
Yeah.
penalty. But what about
will
considerations of
happen.
poverty, or considerations of domestic abuse, or considering someoing's upbringing? Or
Yeah.
Are you
why
say-
is that not thought of? But we
Yeah.
know what it is, because the position they're in, they're not going to be able to see that. So unconscious biases is exactly how the law is entwined. It's how it's what governs the country, unfortunately.
So you're saying that, like, the people, we should be more lenient to certain murderers?
Yeah, I feel like that we should be. Yes.
Wasn't there-
But doesn't
Totally
that
so.
start a
There's
grey
different
line of
stages of murder
how
in
do
the
you
legal
know?
system too. There's like involuntary manslaughter, there's
Yeah.
voluntary manslaughter, then there's murder. Like
Yeah.
you have to have the intention
Murder
and
with
the
intent.
act. And
These
Yeah.
things are. These are a very premeditated
And of course,
murder.
child
It's a whole
laws are
different ballgame.
different. Like children are treated differently, and
Yeah,
like
so-
their sentences are lower and stuff. So
It does depend on. I think it definitely does depend on the crime. I feel like there are certain situations, such as if somebody's abused my child and I have now killed you cold-blooded as a result.
those are horrible.
I know myself. I'll be in that court saying, "Yeah, your point was." I don't understand your point. What you're judging me, but I really don't give a damn about
I
what you
think
think about me.
that's what he was
At
reading.
this point now,
Yeah.
you're gonna now put me down. My lack of remorse, is what the judge would call it,
Yeah.
is gonna be what's gonna send me to the death
death
penalty.
penalty.
Yeah.
But what about?
Absolutely, yeah.
But what about my conviction of love and unconditional love towards my child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
What
what
point
he
did
was
you not
reading
consider
out.
that? Because if anything, you're killing me because I love my child so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but that's
They've
that's
taken away
exactly
my
what he was
child.
reading
Yeah.
about, right? Which is the example that was given to us in the question, which is that the person has to live with that guilt, the rest of the family members and so on. But shouldn't it be on the state to take that pain away from the individual to help relieve the
I hear
pain
you.
of the person?
So I want to
that's,
see.
that's one of the arguments, right? Emotional arguments, like you mentioned.
So would you say that what was more personally? I had the belief that keeping someone incarcerated would be more expensive because you're keeping them there until they die, which is
It can vary.
a reoccurring
Who knows, maybe they're gonna die
cost
soon.
on the government.
So,
It
So
can vary, yes.
me personally, I don't agree with the death penalty, but from the other perspective, I'm thinking, all right, you could take the money that you would have spent on someone that's harmed someone and killed them, or even potentially damaged someone for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Take that money that you would have spent on that person that actually did the murder and put it towards rehabilitating the person who
The victim.
actually the victim, instead of rehabilitating the person who was.
That's a good way to see it.
It
But
is.
then
Yeah,
what do you
reparation.
do with the
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
What do you do with the culprit in that sense?
Yeah, exactly. What happens to the culprit then?
The thing
It's
is,
an
if you're
argument for
gonna-
the death penalty to kill
So,
them.
okay, let's show
now
off
it's
the-
already easy.
Sitting side, I know where I stand. I'm just looking at from the perspective of the person who's been hurt and the person who's been
Yeah.
put through torment. And for them to say, oh, we're going to keep this person alive and we're going to feed them, we're going to
Clothe
bed
them,
them.
shelter
Who said
them,
that we
all
need
this
to
feeling.
feed
Ah.
them?
What do we do with it? What do we do with it?
No, but this is the thing. We can't keep on. We live in a society that forever talks about reparation for the victim. What about reparation for the person that's actually committed the crime? Because at one point, that person was also a victim in their own right. It's a lot of people, for example, statistically, a paedophile, statistically.
Not always though.
Yeah,
Not
I'm
always the
not,
victim in there.
not always the
Some
case,
people
but I
are just
mean,
a bit
in some
deranged,
cases,
you know?
but I mean, some people are also could be deranged. But I mean, how closely is that linked into mental health?
So,
Because how can you cross the line between
think-
the two? I mean, you can kill somebody
Yeah.
and claim insanity straight away.
Yeah.
And guess what?
That's
the law
not- no,
the law
no.
protects you apparently
No,
in some
I'm-
cases.
I'm sorry, that's an old defense now. It's really, really hard to use insanity. It's not as TV shows show you. It's
But you can
it's-
still use
it's
it to some
gone.
extent. I
No,
can still,
no, no,
my
it's-
lawyer
You
can,
cannot do
my
that.
lawyer
No,
can
it's
still
almost
say
You're
it's
clear
because
about
of
entirely-
You're
depression.
completely clear about
The
that.
the defense of insanity is very, very rarely used in court now. It doesn't even withhold because there's such strict guidelines. People are abusing it. That's why we know of the system. I was temporary insanity, let me off. That was abused like hell, so the law has treated that. Again, people are taking steps. I think before we continue this, I don't know everyone's views. Should the death penalty be imposed back here for murder and pedophilia?
See, going back,
Pedophilia, yeah.
I think going back to your point.
Let's go one at a
of-
time. Yeah.
I'm thinking your point of saying, there's some people that have been hurt, and thus, as an effect of that, they have gone down this road, which isn't the best. My question to you would be, sorry, diversion. My question to you would be, all right, so you get that person who is a psychopath, like you know them, true and true, they'll go out and they'll keep killing, they can't be rehabilitated, and even if they do, they won't have any remorse. Would you say that person should be killed?
I mean, if we're talking about death penalty is exactly there and it's just, we can't change it, then yeah.
But if it's not, because it's not right now and we're in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't think prison's enough for them. Because to be honest, I'm sorry, that's my general background is within like young offenders and stuff. So I'm sorry, young offenders. I work with obviously within the criminal justice system, and it's a joke for a lot of prisoners. Prison is a joke for them. The first thing they will refer to prison is a waste of time. They don't call it, I feel just like I just feel like annoyed. No, they're just bored. Yeah. They go, I'm just bored. I've wasted my time and just bored. No reflection in terms of no remorse. I'm thinking I'm just bored of being here, and all they're really doing is just finding a temporary solution to deal with actual issues, real underlying issues that affect how you sleep at night. Such as, okay, you've gone to prison, you've now come out, right? You're naturally going to re-offend again due to the constraints around you as it is. It's a vicious cycle that goes over and over again. Therefore, how often are we going to use the prison population as a solution all the time? There's some situations where we can use, why is it so hard for the system to encourage using psychiatric units? Why is it hard for them to consider hospitalised prison systems? Why is that? Funding. It's to do with service provision. Once again, therefore, it's a harder option to use that solution, but it will have better effects on the underlying issues.
But the jail system is there to reform. It's not entirely there to punish. It might seem like a punishment system, but it's really there to reform.
For
apparently,
they like living there.
But it's not very effective, as you just mentioned.
It's just not effective.
Better life than us
totally
in there.
Like in
Really?
jails, there's almost nothing there.
You don't council
They can even kill you.
They go on the internet, they have television there, they have radio. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come
Pedophiles
on.
get raped and killed in our jails.
Yeah.
And I could say that I'm against killing. I'm actually against killing, but like in this case, at least they suffered. They deserve it.
What about
Are we
torture?
saying no then? No, are we saying no then to it? Are we saying no?
Are we saying no?
Are we saying
in
yes,
those
no,
jails,
or what are we saying here?
I think
They're, like,
objectively the
relaxing.
answer is no, for multitudes of reasons. I think one of the main ones that we haven't particularly considered is free will. Does everyone have full control over themselves?
Yeah.
And that's another entire argument on its own. But why are we saying no other than free will? Like, is it that we don't want to give the state that much power? Have we thought about that?
Maybe because some people get wrongly incarcerated.
Yes.
Wrong
This is
incarceration.
a huge point here.
I
very
would
big
no.
point.
I need to disagree there. Wrong incarcerations are there, but they're very, very, very minuscule. This was a point I was trying to.
But that
You
could
don't
be
know that. How can you say that? How can you say that?
Because I'm trying to.
welcome
Back
to
it up. Back
reality.
it up.
No, back it up. I need
Maybe
back
if
it
I
up.
could-
Sufficient.
Back
If
it
I
up.
could speak, that's exactly what I plan on doing. So DNA statistics, video evidence, and so on. These things help lead crimes to be solved. So for example, if we go back and check DNA swabs from the 1980s and so on, please correct my year if I'm wrong, but then we find out that people were wrongly convicted and you release them. That doesn't mean the 20 years they spent in jail are like, oh, it's okay, you'll get over it. That is horrible. However, starting now, we have sufficient information to particularly incarcerate people. This comes down to the argument is that, would you rather have a certain very tiny minority put away or incarcerated, or a bigger majority of people released into the world that are actual offenders?
Sorry, you kind
So,
of lost.
No, why would you say?
It's the most
Bottom
important
line,
thing.
bottom line,
Why would you say?
bottom line. Would you rather have a minority that is incarcerated
Well, that's
innocently,
innocent.
That's innocent.
or yes, that's innocent.
Why would the
Or a
majority be released though?
Yeah.
Because
Why would
that's our current system. It's they spend some time in jail, sometimes half of that for good behavior. I don't know if that's the UK system or
Yeah.
the US
Yeah.
system, but
Yeah.
that is there. And then they're released. So that's the current system. What should we have? Should we make it stricter with the death penalty, or should we make it lighter?
We obviously can't make it lighter, because
Yeah.
then
It's
There's-
not make it
your
lighter.
your
How
your
can
punishment
we?
has to be proportionate to your crime.
But then
Yeah.
this is what you're saying. By making it lighter, I mean more focus on psychiatric care rather than jail time.
But in
Oh, so you're saying that the people won't be rehabilitated
better
to
not
get
to
that system
change
in
the
terms
time.
of
Now,
Yeah,
being
that's what you were
rehabilitated,
talking
is that
about,
what you're
yes.
talking
no, the people that are going away, going with your rehabilitation system and going into it, falsely like being able to go through a system, pretend like they're normal, and then once they're released back into society,
Commit the crime again.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's
Commit the crime
point is.
again, but I feel like maybe what about follow-up work then? I mean, we look, once again, society in a lot of its aspect, particularly healthcare, social care, and probation stuff, follow-up care
But
isn't
isn't that-
heavily emphasised as
They're
much
not-
Isn't
as
that too late though?
is.
Because follow-up care, you can do follow-up care.
Do you have the
They
funding
they
for
don't,
that
if they
Listen,
don't
it all
get
goes down to
the
funding,
help-
isn't it, all the time? It's always
Yeah.
funding, isn't it? That's what we're talking about. Always goes back down to the
It's
same thing.
ridiculous.
They
Yeah.
can't afford
No.
for follow-up care.
There you
Therefore,
go.
if you was really, really concerned about what the guy was going to do after jail, then what did you put in place beforehand?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the probation officer hasn't even officially found him a house, let alone found him
a job or
a job or
like
anything
that.
else. Therefore,
Nothing.
what happens again? That
goes back-
continues to
Yeah.
Mm.
Cycle.
go back. It's a vicious
Yeah,
cycle
yeah,
over and
yeah.
over
Because they got
again.
nothing.
I find this
You've got nothing better
conversation
to do.
kind of pretentious in the sense that we haven't been through a very horrible crime where the death penalty may have been warranted in the past. People who have
We
are
haven't.
going through, I would assume, at
you
least
know
I
our
hope.
What about the what about I don't know if you're aware, but what about the Jamie Bulger killers then?
Yeah.
What about the two
Yeah.
boys that fair enough
No,
they're
no,
kids.
I'm saying us
They're
6
kids.
people here. So what I'm trying to say is that when you're
But you
in
don't
that
know us.
specific,
Again, you can't tell
I
that
said
we
I hope.
didn't
Yeah.
win.
I said I hope.
Now let me
There
say.
are
Then
ways.
hope.
I hope that we haven't,
Yeah.
but if we had, perhaps our views would change. Our emotional response would kick in instantly and be like, you haven't been through a situation where your mother was brutally stabbed in front of you and so on and so forth. That would really change your views on this topic and really create the bias.
I have
I think
different
that's
situations.
again
That's
the
why I'm
emotional response we're
not-
coming down to.
I don't want
How
I
can we
think,
talk
I
about
think if
that?
it was
To
going
get
to
killed.
happen, it
Yeah.
would
All get
happen
tortured.
by now.
As in,
It's my choice.
It would have happened by now. The death penalty would have come in by now.
My
But then it
opinion.
was there.
I like it.
as in it used
But
to
like
be
with
there and then
timing,
they
like,
got over
like
it.
for the
Well,
small
it would-
crimes,
it would be
it's still
happening
like,
right
you
now,
can't
and it's
make
not.
it lighter.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think
People are still arguing for it.
Yeah,
though.
I know. I'm saying
I
that.
think as a whole,
But it was going to happen. It would be happening right now because people are just over all this.
Okay, can
as
I
a
throw a
group,
question? Go on, go on after you.
Sorry, as a group, I think we stand at the point of death penalty is too harsh, prison's too lenient.
Yeah. I don't
So-
think it's too lenient. I think there needs to be a system to actually rehabilitate
Yeah.
these offenders
But what-
back into society after they've served their
Yes.
time.
Yeah,
But like
but
you said,
going
it's
back
the
to
funding,
this,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all to do with funding.
but going back to like the psychopath argument of the person that can't be rehabilitated, what's the solution?
It's a good question.
That's a very good question.
I was thinking, I was mulling it
For the
over for a
rest of
part.
their life.
You know,
I
Labos.
think prison or psychiatric units.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not like in prison, like.
Not
so
in the
they
prison
wouldn't
system.
Have, like,
I'm
jail
talking
or
hospital
something.
beds, exactly.
Everything.
Let's
Come
think
on.
religion for a
Handcuffs.
second. How dare we take another person's life if we talk about the death penalty? Because some religions talk about only God is capable of taking life. Some religions can talk about
And I feel like
physically taking lives for breaking your faith or going against your faith. So we have problems there. If we link those back to the death penalty, it's rather serious of an issue. Murder in the sense of my God told me to do it. Is that justifiable? Could we rehabilitate them? Should we put them down or should we keep them in jail? There's so many reasons. There's so many things we aren't considering here. Let's think of we have two examples here: pedophilia and murder.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
if
separate it.
murder isn't for death? Okay, like if you kill someone, you don't get hung. So what if pedophilia is? In that instance, that could be abused so easily. Suppose you molest a child, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to be hung, so let me kill the child, and I'll just be sent to jail instead. Like, these systems can very easily be abused. The death penalty on its own, not to mention the cost, not to mention the abuse is possible. It's not a very safe road to go down. It's in fact quite
Speaking
a
of
slippery
paedophilia
slope.
then, okay, feel free, I'm sure you're going to have your opinions about this. For example, myself, I don't necessarily, because of my professional background, it just simply goes down to that. I have grown to see a lot of paedophiles as very vulnerable people in their own rights. That's my opinion. I don't believe it's right. I don't believe what's happened is sufficient for, you know, whatever, innit? It's just not right. There's not enough to talk about any more than that. However, I've worked with.
You should talk
I've
about it.
I've worked with many high-risk contact offenders, might I say, that have served time in prison as a result of their actions, and a lot of them have been abused when they were kids. A lot of them were.
So when you say a lot, what do you mean? Do you mean like 19?
Okay, let me just say I'll say 10, I would say 8
Really?
or 9.
Oh,
8 or 9 had been abused.
And you really need to talk about that.
And these things, unfortunately, I find it quite difficult to say, oh my God, every paedophile should just be killed. Because unfortunately for them, they weren't rehabilitated themselves at any earlier stages.
They're victims themselves.
They were victims in their own rights. A lot of the ones that I've spoken to have had horrific backgrounds. However, healthcare systems didn't identify them as having issues. Completely let them. The education system didn't identify them due to the time. So because of that, they weren't able to get help at an earlier stage. So unfortunately now it's caught up to them. Don't get me wrong.
So do we blame the system?
So it's hard for me.
Do we blame the system in this?
This
is so difficult now. This takes it
completely.
to another level,
Exactly.
doesn't it?
So I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm sorry.
That's
That's,
good that you
to
did
me,
that.
Difficult for me.
to me personally.
But at the same time, if you touch my child,
It's not about if you get harmed, you don't want to harm someone else.
That's a really fruity way of
how
thinking
do you-
about it.
It's
but
like it's your option.
It's
not fruity.
Don't use the word fruity in this
Fruity?
case.
Please.
Do not use that word.
It's a good
But
cake.
please do
No,
not
not
use the word
fruity.
fruity in
No.
this instance, really. This is serious stuff we're talking about.
Can't
Are we
be
not
doing
giving?
it.
Are we not giving? Are we not?
Good cake.
Are we not giving the offenders an excuse by saying because they've been abused as a child? Because I know a lot of people that have been abused as a child, but they haven't gone down that same route of becoming
totally.
a paedophile. So
Totally.
somewhere
It's
down the line,
difficult.
it
It's
became.
Totally. But I think that's subjected to people's
Yeah.
kind of like their own.
Yeah,
That's when free will gets involved. That's when preference gets involved. That's when whatever you had to do behind closed doors gets involved. I mean, that's where it all differs. We can't put everybody with the same kind of hegemonic kind of thing. We can't
This
keep
isn't
them
straight
doing that
cut,
because
this
it's not a
argument.
straight cut
Or
issue.
this issue, it's not like it should be like this, that should happen because that. It's not, it's one you have to really think about.
I've had
But
many
we're all leaning
paedophiles that have
towards
told me
no.
it's an illness.
Yeah.
They
Why are we all
like,
leaning
as
As long
long
as
as
they
they
did
never
not
had it.
release,
Like, they
even if
speak
they
in
did
such
not
a way
choose the
which they
death penalty
hate
as a law, I won't
I
say
hate
nothing because at least they're not outside.
They're not?
Yeah.
At least they're not outside,
If
not
they're
on the street
incarcerated.
Oh,
and
okay,
harming
yeah.
against someone.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least that.
Yeah.
That's
Agreed.
already great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Why do you
Agreed.
think this
How long
argument
do
is
they
so
stay
heated?
in there for though? Before
Why do you
they're-
think
and
people
are they
talk
let,
about
how
this so
long
much?
are they given?
People
Because-
don't talk
Let
for a
her-
long time.
and have
they
they
stop
done it
talking about
again?
To be honest, if I tell you this is
You
a
won't
sick on
see
a
this.
particular
Hang
Hang
on,
on,
one
one
case,
second, one
Yeah,
second,
go
one
on,
second.
do
Yeah,
it.
these
one second.
debates
Sorry.
maybe, but
you're
not
gonna get
before.
killed. You're gonna get even more annoyed. But I'm just gonna throw it out there. Just one particular person. This person I worked with, high risk, very high risk. His taste is between like 9 and 13. He likes prepubescent boys. He was obviously raped continuously throughout through major key people in his family. It almost seemed like incest within a family of boys. So to the point that he believed his own parent or his brothers and that were his boyfriends as well. That's how he was conditioned. As he now, tell me what you think about it. He was found with 40,000 indecent images of boys. He was also nicked for making and distributing images.
What?
Yeah, so it was
Because
going
there's
on
a lot
for a
of
number of
pedophiles
years.
outside.
It was going on for a number of years without him being caught.
Wow.
And obviously, because the system had failed him, he'd been in care himself when he was younger. He was sort of kind of put to the margins of society, so no one really noticed he was there. Hence why it was going on undetected. Unfortunately for him, he got 4 years.
Oh
Is
my
that it?
gosh. Is he out now?
Yeah,
And no
Nobody knows.
psychiatric care.
Nobody knows.
nobody
Don't
knows
know.
what.
No
About
psychiatric care?
He receives a lot. Yeah, he receives a lot of things.
But he's out and just doing his own thing.
Yeah, be on the register.
He's
but
on the register. He's on the register.
It helps it a lot.
I mean, he's on the register and he receives a lot of treatment, which
But is it
suppresses
working?
his urges.
Is
It
it
does.
working?
He says it does suppress his urges.
It
He's
does.
in like his 40s.
I can say whatever
like,
I want to
late,
say.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
late 30s, kind of
I agree, but
early 40s.
mental progress, like brain scans and so on, certain things you can show,
You-
certain things you
exactly.
can't.
But me personally,
You
I find
can't
it for me
show
to go
that,
and say
Yeah.
he should get a death penalty because
Oh,
I
the
know how
The story.
shoeshane his life is. It's
Yeah.
if anything, it looked like he didn't even have
Alive.
space to even get out of that kind of life. So, is death penalty warranted?
No.
Yes,
I
this
think
is like
every
that
case then is
rubbish.
individual.
There you
isn't
go.
it? Every case
There
is
we go.
individual.
It's
and
difficult.
you
You can't say
assess
a
it.
particular
You
whole
can't
crime.
turn
4
around and
years.
say, you get that, and I know.
110%.
I know. But listen to how.
So we're
It
saying
black
differs.
or white?
Like, seriously, 4
He
years.
he was of dual heritage actually.
It's too disgusting.
He
4
was of
years
dual
is nothing,
heritage,
though.
and he was brought up in.
It's like
If you look at
he
how
went
his
for
life was
chilling.
set up, he was brought up in Scotland with a one black parent. Therefore, you know, he dealt with a lot of the
Issues,
racism,
race, all
you
that.
name
So
it.
issues
He was
upon issues.
isolated because he was the one mixed race child within the whole family. So he was used as the pawn, the one that you abuse over and over and over and over again.
Man,
That's
that's horrendous.
It's horrendous, but I mean, this is what happens when you do not receive rehabilitation, early
Yeah.
intervention at any earlier
The
stage of your
society
life.
has kind of
Yeah.
let
It
him
will
down.
continue.
The
You will
system.
continue to
system
get
has
So
let
let
him
in
down.
that vein, what she said was really interesting. Take each case on an individual
Individual.
basis.
Absolutely.
But there's a problem
and
with
early
that.
intervention. We need to
Yeah,
scream
really,
early intervention.
really.
I agree with you there, but there's a problem with the individual basis case. You're still allowing the state to have that option of the death penalty to begin with. That on its own can be a really disturbing. We haven't lived through particular world wars where I hope we haven't lived through world wars if you want to be PC about it, but we haven't. We don't know what the states are capable of. We don't know why the amendments are there in the US. We don't know all of these powers given to us and why they were given to us. So taking into account and giving the states that much power to kill someone, that's a slippery slope.
They're anyways gonna do something without our speaking
Yeah.
and conversation.
Yeah.
They don't. They like, oh yeah, of course we can like speak, tell us opinion, like, and in the end, well, it's gonna happen. If you're gonna tell no, it's probably still gonna be yes
Yeah.
or differently.
Yeah.
It's not our choice. It's already there. I'm gonna do whatever I want. That's how people see that.
Yeah.
We are just like a cover.
I mean, we might death. Capital punishment might be a thing if the big corporations were backing it, but it doesn't benefit them. So for all the drug companies out there and for all of those big, massive corporations, it doesn't affect them
Yeah.
directly anyway.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's never
Yeah.
going to be something that we need to
Yeah.
consider as
Yeah.
part of a law
Yeah.
because it doesn't benefit them
the
as much.
negative world view that corporations rule the world and
There you
they
go.
control
Yeah.
everything.
They control
Yes.
everything. How we breathe, how we
Yeah.
eat, how
I'm
we
sorry,
speak, how we communicate.
unsubstantiated.
No. In America especially,
In
with
America.
lobbies and
Yes,
gun
big
lobbies.
pharma. And,
You can't say
Gun
that
control,
corporations,
gun
corporations
control.
don't
Why
have
everything
an
comes from
influence.
So you
America.
don't,
Yeah.
that you
Better,
don't.
Better
better
you
don't
do.
think
He said
about
that
them
they do.
because
He said
this.
that they do.
You said they do have.
Oh, man.
no, it's getting good.
It was good. They took our
And
shit
there
away.
goes the final bell. Let's wrap it up and see what our dinner guests thought of each other.
I think the death penalty, I don't know, it's a hard one. Like, with paedophilia, I felt like, yes, it definitely should be. With murderer, it's a tough situation because you can murder someone out of self-defense and stuff like that. But after reflection, and I can't remember her name. Ared. But she was explaining how these people are abused like horrifically beforehand, and it makes it a bit difficult. Like, I'm just a bit 50-50 with it at the moment.
How did I feel about the food? I thought the food was good, actually. I didn't think there was enough, all right? But I thought for taste, for difference, you know, I think you had a bit of, didn't you have a bit of Caribbean and a bit of Nigerian? And it was lovely. And I think, you know, tasting different foods from all around the world is an interesting concept, you know. So it wasn't anything scary. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it's a great concept, because you would do that naturally anyway. You'd be eating and talking, debating, finding out stuff just about life. And it's all quite casual, isn't it? You know, maybe a drop of wine would be nice. I think Kazam's opinions very strong and quite outspoken, and sometimes he kind of ruled the table, you know. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think sometimes don't be so textbook. Don't be so like in America. I wanted to hear his from the heart, his views. And I sometimes felt that I didn't get that. Maybe I was wrong, I'm not quite sure. But it was quite conflicting in quite a lot of his opinions, you know. He's quite entitled to his own opinion, absolutely, but yeah, very opinionated.
Oh, and let's not forget to see who they vote to win this week's most interesting dinner guest.
I would like to vote for Christina. Reason being, she brought a lot of energy to a lot of our conversations. Equally, I liked a lot of her viewpoints and her positive stance to life. So yeah, Christina.
How was your experience today?
I had a great day today. I had a very fun day, obviously. Forget that we ate so much food, but it was great to hear people's perspectives on a range of issues that are quite important in society, particularly from people from different backgrounds, different upbringings. So yeah, I learned a lot today as well.
Okay, I would vote for a Reg because she gave valid points, very opinionated. Her opinions were strong, and she kept the conversations going. My experience today was fun. I got to meet interesting people with different opinions from my own. Yeah, it was just a good fun little afternoon and got fed. You know, can't go wrong.
I'd like to vote Kazim to go through to the next round, because he might not have popular opinions, but the way he debates, it's clear and concise. It's not down to emotion. So he just like says his points clearly, and like, I think he'll be good in the next round, I think. Yeah, my day today was good. Like, I enjoyed the food. Like, I like Afro food anyway, so it was easy for me. And then like the people that I met today were interesting people, to say the least. So yeah, it's been a fun day.
I would like to nominate Kazam because he knows how to speak about and give some information towards the others, so others could speak up by themselves. Otherwise it happens a little bit awkward, because a lot of people can't just say lots of things. And he just give beginning of conversation, and everyone else starts to speak with him and work together. My experience was like meeting a lot of great people with different nationalities from different places. It always was fun with them, communicated with them, laughing with them, knowing something new, and salad.
Thank you so much.
I think I would vote for Tash to go through to the next round, because I think I liked his answers, and he was quite cool in his delivery, you know, and he didn't force his opinions on all of us, you know, and listen to all sides of the debate and the conversations, you know, and just thought, well, this is how I view life. You know what I mean? I think it was quite fair as well. And yeah, I think you should go through to the next round.
winner of this episode of Don't Talk With Your Mouthful is... Kazam.
You actually have to stand up, say your piece.
All right, so thank you for voting for me. I think I was all right, but I probably wouldn't have voted for myself even if I could have. But really, thank you. Like, this was fun.
Can I
This is
take my
something
hand
I
back?
really like doing, and I get to do it again.
Yeah.
Maybe next time I can be worse.
Yeah. You're antagonistic.
Possibly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Who will be our dinner guests in the next episode and what will be on the menu? This is